with technical direction and stuff that so that it can kind of seem a little bit better in your journey. Today we're going to be dealing with a legal portion. We were dealing with the keeping it real with Dr. Lil on the my story and then the legal story. We do have a lot of people that are lined up to tell their story. Remember, we're not trying to give legal advice or anything like that. We're just basically trying to empower you so that you can have some direction. So I wanted to come on here and quickly talk about discovery. I got a couple of emails about people asking and wanting to know when can a discovery or something to that effect or evidentiary hearing come into play. Well, the way the court system is set up, based on what I've been told by my legal people, you are supposed to be, or the court is supposed to be, in search of the truth. And we know sometimes that's just not the case. They're not search of this, they're not search of that, because sometimes in some court systems, depending on the court and the environment, there may be too many friends or people that's contaminating the circumstance. Now, obviously, that can happen anywhere, but right now we're talking about the court systems. Sometimes that can happen, and when that does happen with a friend or a wife or a husband being a court and a judge, or a judge and an attorney, sometimes they don't always follow the rules like they're supposed to. So, you as a litigant or a person that's a part of the case, whether you have an attorney or not, your job is to try to present whatever you can to the court so they can understand what you're trying to accomplish and the best of your ability. So the court is supposed to be in search of the truth. Let's just make that clear. There's nothing supposed to be like a puzzle or a mystery, so forth and so on. Now, one person did send me an email about motions. Why does people uh, file motions? Well, people file motions for a lot of reasons. One is because depending on the person and the firm, they might be trying to generate income for themselves, but there is supposed to be some sanctions and things put in place to help keep that at bay. But let's just say they're filing the motion or something because they think it's something, a real issue, a real something that has merit. Nonetheless, when they do that, you have the opportunity, if you get served properly, to respond. Once you respond to it, then you're not accountable for stuff that you don't know. You're only accountable for stuff you do know. But once you respond to it, you in most cases have to go to court. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you go to court and respond to that, you can also say what you're saying in the complaint to the response. If there's a dispute, which is what the email that I received about the questions, if there's a dispute, and in most cases, really the search of the truth, the court is supposed to let you do a discovery. Now, there's different levels of discoveries and different kinds of discovery. The basic one, for depending on what court you're in, will do the evidentiary. Now, we're not dealing with the criminal court because that's a little bit more complicated, and that's usually done by the prosecutor. You present the information to the prosecutor's office, say what you want to say, and then they can decide what they want to do with the case, whether they want to litigate it, take it, etc. But for the most part, for the family court and civil law court, those are pretty much the same. And I think the other tax court, there's another tax court out there. More or less, for the most part, searching and being in search of the truth is what the court is supposed to be about. So if the court is in search of the truth and there's not a lot of things going on, ain't supposed to be going on, you know that the church that the court is functioning the way a court's supposed to function, then an evidentiary hearing, which is evidence hearing, and or a full-blown discovery. And the discovery, like I said, can be different levels. Sometimes you can start at the basic things and you have to agree on what you're going to discover so that you can make your point across. And then you can also ask the other side questions in regard to what your problem is. You know, you might want to know where a person works or something to that case. And whatever that thing is, they are supposed to answer that. There is a lot of controversy about some of this stuff. I think that you knowing what you need to know about whatever it is to take for your case to go to the next place is important. But sometimes you need to do a discovery to confirm or to just to weed out whatever might not be there. So for the most part, I wanted to just basically talk about that. There is a couple places online that you can probably Google about the importance or purpose of discovery. I'll leave that in the chat area for you to look at. And there's quite a few of them. Obviously, if you have a responsible attorney. Now, one of the persons said that they had an attorney and they were not doing what we were just talking about. When I spoke to a very responsible attorney that works in the legal clinic, they said the discovery is basically to confirm the allegations that an individual may be having about the person. If the court is not willing to do that, then they're not in search of the truth. So then you have to either compel the court to do so with the upper court or follow some other mechanisms. Now, there are some functions of the court that can get weighed down when there are, as I said earlier, too many family members or friends or the attorneys are doing stuff for themselves, and then the judge might, it used to be an attorney. All those things are legit as long as you still keep the rule of law intact. When the rule of law interferes with relationships and who you know and all that, that's when it's a problem. So nonetheless, you do what you need to do in presenting the court why you need the evidence to, or you need to confirm or do a discovery, because what you already have gives a probable cause to look further. So that's what the court is supposed to be for, that when you have a reasonable belief that something is true and have some sort of evidence to say to the contrary, then the court is supposed to oblige to that and let you seek or go further. And because sometimes the defendant or the other side or whatever the case may be may say things that are obviously not true, which obviously would come to light when you do the research. That's all it really is, the research. So I hope that answered your question. I will be back on. I got more questions about the fraud in the court. I think you guys pretty much already know that you can't do anything once fraud in the court takes place. Until that is dealt with, you need to, no matter who's done it, it has to be dealt with by the court, or otherwise everything in that particular courthouse is considered void. So you have to be very mindful that you need to deal with the issue. The main issue is getting rid of that fraud so that you can do the other things. If other things took place after that, they all hinge on the fraud, then they are all hinged on something that is voidable, something that was not valid. Something obtained the wrong way cannot develop or make other things come out of it. In other words, everything stops with that. So I'll go over the things that we were given for that. There were a lot of statutes from the Supreme Court of the United States, which still holds true today. So we'll go deeper next time, but that right there stops right there at the fraud. So fraud in the court stops right there. So then don't go any further until that is dealt with. And if for some reason it is, those things that are typically considered to be trespassing on the court. Okay? So we'll talk more about that later. But for the main thing about the discovery, go through discovery or the evidentiary hearing to validate, confirm allegations, and to find out more information that you might need. I hope this helps. I'm trying to do my best to give you some things I've learned, some things I've been told. Remember, this is not legal advice. It's just technical direction or my experiences. You have to still do the loop and making sure it should be in. You can always ask the judge. If you got a good, responsible judge, they'll say what they need to say, and then everything should be on record and nothing changed or altered so that you could be able to go back and listen to it again or read about it so that you can make sure you had everything clear, if you go down that route. All right. Thank you, everybody. This is Keeping It Real with Dr. Lil. I'm so glad I can come and empower you with some tidbits. Today's was on discovery and evidentiary hearing. And then we talked a little bit about fraud on the court because we still got some questions about that. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Signing out with Keeping It Real with Dr. Lil. Send us your stories. And if you'd like to be on our channel or our podcast, please come and send us an email. Go to our website, www.drlil.com, so that we can try to book you and talk about your story, legal story, or your personal story. Thank you so much. This is signing out, Dr. Lily M. Coley.